The Christianization of Africa's kingdoms added a great era to Africa's medieval period, from Mansa Musa and his Malian Islamic Empire, and the Christian kingdoms of Nubia and Aksum. In this video, we're going to be talking about the Christianization of the Nubian kingdoms of Mukuria, Alodia, and Nobatia. And the reason why is because much is known about the kingdoms that preceded these kingdoms, this era, such as the Kushite kingdoms. And this is mostly talked about mostly because of its association with ancient Egypt, the 25th dynasty, I'm sure as many of you guys are familiar with. But not much is known about the medieval period, or it's not talked about as much. And so in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the Christianization of this area of the kingdoms, of the medieval kingdoms of Nubia. The accounts in which I'm going to be sharing with you guys are mostly based off of John of Ephesus. Now, the Christianization of the people of Nubia began sometime around the 6th century AD. One member amongst the clergy of Pope Theodosius of Alexandria by the name of Julianus had a desire to Christianize the people living south of the Thebaid district in Egypt at the time. Now, these people were most likely the Nobatians, who were the northernmost kingdom of Nubia closest to Egypt. In hopes of achieving this desire, he spoke with Queen Theodora of the Eastern Roman Empire. He spoke to her with hopes of awakening a similar desire in her for the conversion of his people. And to his fortune, she received this message with great joy and promised to do everything in her power to help the conversion of these people and to convert them or remove them from their errors of idolatry, as they said. However, there was a problem. You see, relations between the king and Pope Theodosius of Alexandria were kind of iffy. Things would take a sharp turn as King Justinian of the Eastern Roman Empire. Pope Theodosius had an interesting backstory. Pope Theodosius was the last patriarch recognized by the Coptic Orthodox Church. He was the successor of Pope Timothy III, who was the 32nd Pope of Alexandria. He was first recognized by King Justinian and the Eastern Orthodox Church of Alexandria at an unknown date. But however, he was later rejected because of his Miaphysite theology, while King Justinian was a Chalcedonian. And these were two different doctrines or two different theologies of the Eastern Orthodox Church at the time. And so I'll explain that to you right now. The differences actually go back to what is known as the Council of Chalcedon, which happened around the 5th century, when a bunch of these Christian elders or etc. got together and decided on the theology of their religion. And so the Chalcedonians believed in a single nature of Christ, while the Miaphysites believed in almost a dual nature of Jesus Christ, which he is divine and human at the same time. However, it is said that the two churches believe in the same thing, but the way that they express their theologies are different. And so, because of these differences, now meanwhile all this is happening, Queen Theodora was sending members of the clergy of Pope Theodosius to go on an expedition to go and convert the people of Nobatia. And King Justinian wasn't really pleased with this. Once he heard this, he sent some officials of his own to go attempt the conversion of the Nubian people of Nobatia. And so there was a race between the bishops of Justinian and the bishops of Queen Theodora from Pope Theodosius and the clergy of Alexandria. Once the queen heard that King Justinian was sending some bishops of his own to go and convert those people, she sent a cunningly worded letter to the governor of Thebaid, which is where they would be sent before they would eventually go to the country of the Nubians of Nobatia. And in this letter, she actually threatened to take the Thebaid government's life if he let Justinian's bishops get to the Nubian people before hers. And so, because of this, the governor of Thebaid actually played a trick on the king's bishops and ambassadors, allowing the queen's bishops and ambassadors to leave and to go towards the people of Nobatia first, reaching them earlier than the kings would. Now, after this, the queen's ambassadors and bishops arrived to Nobatia, and they were received with great joy. An army was sent to go and meet with them, and then they were met with the king. They met with the king, who had received many, many gifts from them. They even began to, and I quote, to renounce the pagan ways of their ancestors, confessing, "This is the one true God, and no other beside him." Pretty crazy. Now, once this happened, they then informed about Julian's group of bishops and ambassadors that would come later after them, and they told them how to receive them, which was basically just to reject them and say, "We're good." They actually painted kind of a bad picture of the king, and when his bishops came, they told him that they would receive their gifts, but they would not receive their conversion because of the evil King Justinian, who chased Pope Theodosius away from the Church of Alexandria, which is kind of funny. Now, once this happened, Julian, the person who started this whole expedition, stayed in Nubia for an extra 2 years, baptizing the king and his noblemen, and arranging them with a bishop from Tibet, which was a district in southern Egypt, as if I didn't explain that to you guys, by the name of Theodore. He then came back to Constantinople, and he met with the queen, who would meet him in Rejoice, and he said many great things about the Nobatian people. Soon, however, Pope Theodosius would die, and in his deathbed he remembered Nobatians because of Pope Julian, who had died earlier and whose loss was felt deeply. Pope Theodosius actually requested that a man by the name of Longinus be appointed as their bishop and take the place of Julian, as he was a man capable of finishing the Christianization of the Nubians. So immediately after his death, Longinus was appointed as the ordained bishop. Now, Longinus was important because he would help what would be the conversion of the Alodian people, which were the southernmost kingdom of the Nubians. After this, the king of Alodia was actually very interested in converting to Christianity, and he sent many letters and delegations to the king of Nobatia to have their bishop Longinus come and convert them. And so after many attempts of doing this, the king of Nobatia finally agreed to have Longinus sent to the Alodians to have them converted to Christianity. However, Longinus' journey to Alodia wasn't actually an easy one. See, he ended up going to Arabia to handle some duties, but then was later called back to Nobatia, and then had to travel from there to Alodia. And in between Alodia and Nobatia, there was the kingdom of Makuria, who were converted maybe around the same time, if not just a little bit earlier, the kingdom of Nobatia, and they were of a completely different theology. So remember when I told you about how the king was of the Chalcedonian theology, and the queen and Pope Theodosius in the Coptic church was of the Miaphysite theology. This caused problems. And so, as Longinus was trying to travel to the Alodian people, the king of Makuria actually put watch people to make sure that he wouldn't be able to get through. But eventually, he ended up getting through without being caught, and actually did make it to Alodia. And after that, he would eventually convert the king of Alodia and also his noblemen to the religion of Christianity. Now, from the accounts that I've read from John of Ephesus, the conversion of the kingdom of Makuria was a lot less clear. All we do know is that Makuria was Christianized sometime before the kingdom of Alodia, and that they were of the Chalcedonian theology, unlike the Nobatian and Alodian contemporaries. However, later on, they would soon annex their neighboring kingdom to the north of Nobatia, making it only 2 kingdoms, and would eventually fight and defeat Arab or Islamic forces at the Battle of Dungula sometime around the 7th century, which is probably one of the biggest battles of Christian Nubia, one of the biggest historical events of Christian Nubia. But however, unfortunately, they and the Nubians were defeated by Saladin around the 12th century, as well as with the inclusion of Arab and Islamic tribes in the Sudan shortly after the medieval period. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it didn't come off as too choppy, and if you'd like to learn more about this, I wrote a blog article about this, so you can get that by hitting the link below. Everything will be there. And yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you share it with someone who might be interested. Hit the subscribe button. Yeah, and if you have anything that you would like to mention, maybe I didn't mention it in here, maybe I forgot about it, definitely feel free to let me know. And with that being said, peace out.